Looking for the perfect gift for someone you love? Perhaps you're in search of something unique to treat yourself. Discover the beauty of uniquely created hand-stamped jewelry. Locally owned and crafted with love, our collection features rings, bracelets, keychains, and pendants made from durable aluminum and paired with natural beads. Enjoy necklaces on sterling silver-plated chains and earrings with sterling silver hooks for a touch of elegance. Each piece is hand-stamped and one of a kind, making it uniquely yours. Plus, we offer custom orders, and we ship nationwide. Find us on Facebook and Instagram today and fall in love with your perfect piece, uniquely created just for you. Uniquely created hand-stamped jewelry in Crossville.
I think it's just a personal journey, and you're so scared that people are going to be like, wow, she really did this. But if you don't do it, you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I love my kids, and my kids are not raised by any means all the way, but you have to start living something, you know, you're such a mom for so long.
You have to do something for yourself.
You know, I was just like, I cannot die as an old lady and be like, man, I wish I would have wrote a book.
Yes.
Welcome to What's Up Crossville, your go-to podcast for all the happenings in our quaint Tennessee town. Whether you've been here for generations or have just moved to enjoy our slower, friendlier pace of life, this is the place to connect with the heart and soul of Crossville. Here, we dive deep into the facts, share true stories, and get to know our neighbors a little bit better. Each episode aims to inform, inspire, and entertain, steering clear of the negative noise and controversies often found outside in the world today. This is Melissa Ellis, and I'm here to ask, what's up, Crossville?
What's up, Crossville? Today I have Miranda Dean, a newly published author of Eve and Dawn. It's a children's book, and I want to hear all about it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Miranda, and what inspired you to start writing children's books. Of course, I know you personally anyway.
It's true, yeah.
I know you like books. You like to read. You're a book nut. So just tell me, I can imagine what inspired you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I've been reading my whole life, and not to trauma dump on people because everybody has their own stories in life, but it was my escape when I was little. You know, that's how I got away from things. I journaled a lot and I read a lot, and that was just kind of my coping mechanism. So, I had a lot of adventures. I mean, you grew up in the same area as we, the same era too. So we were outside all the time. We played all the time. And so I wanted kids to know how that was. And kids still do that. I know people say that all the time. But my kids play outside. So.
We lock my kids out of the house to do that. I was like, you want to come in and play games? Too bad. Lock.
I know. I'm like, play with some sticks.
Yeah, dirt and sticks.
But my kids were always outside kids too. But I just wanted to write a good story. And I was driving my children, like back in 2020 when gas was cheap, because there was nobody else.
Nobody was driving.
Yeah, nobody was driving anywhere. So we would just drive around and play the left-right game. And, you know, you get in the car aimlessly you get to a stop sign or a red light and you say left or right. And somebody gets to pick left or right.
I've forgotten all about that.
So we did that one. I think it was spring break we did it. And we ended up in nowhere land in Scott County. And I was telling my daughters about our adventures as kids and how we used to go on these adventures. And then the next time we went to Cookville, and I took them to my old neighborhood that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And my oldest daughter, she was like, this sounds like a kid's book. And she was like, you know, you should write a book about all this. And I was like, I've always wanted to write books. And I was just like, oh, I guess I could, you know. So that in 2020 is when, you know, you weren't doing anything else. So I was working, but, you know, on my free time I was.
And there was a lot of free time because kids weren't involved in anything. There were no choir concerts.
Yeah.
No drama, no nothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had 2 kids and I was working because I work in healthcare. So I just decided to start writing.
Essential.
I was essential.
Yeah, I used my 2020 to go back to grad school.
Good for you.
Like,
I worked.
No, it was kind of stupid because I decided I'm going to go to grad school. I have all this free time. And so do my children who are also home with me now. This is fantastic.
True.
But no.
Yeah.
So I really want to hear more about the book. So you started
as just an avid reader, a fanatic reader. What kind of stuff did you read when you were younger?
I would literally read anything when I was a kid. And
it had words. I read it.
Yeah,
phone book, mine.
Yes, like cereal boxes, done. So I would read anything. I loved Babysitter's Club, obviously. Oh, yeah. That was my heart. I loved the Babysitter's Club. And I loved that each of them, you could pick up one of those books independently and read it. And you didn't have to start. Like, I love series. Don't get me wrong. I love a series. But these are, those were books that you could just pick up one randomly and you knew exactly what was happening. Right. So I read a lot of Babysitter's Club, probably all of them. But I read even like American Girl stories, Oh, yeah. I read Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Oh, yes. That was my jam. Yeah. That and Sweet Valley. I did Sweet Valley Twins.
I loved Sweet Valley Twins.
I did not read Sweet Valley High. I felt like I was in high school still reading the Sweet Valley Twins, if that tells you my maturity level. It was not cool. I'd hide them in my books.
I read those. You read like, my brain, I just had a brain fart. Nancy Drew.
Oh, I love Nancy Drew.
So I love mysteries, and I still to this day love mysteries. And I'll read anything.
Yeah, my mom had us into Stephen King at a very young age, which is probably not good.
Yeah. I mean,
God rest her soul, but she did the best.
I can see now your personality where that comes from. The Halloween fun.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And my mother was one of those that read like 100 books a year. Yeah. My dad is one of those guys that waits for the movie to come out.
My husband.
Yes. And everyone, I published a book several years ago, and I tell people my dad hates reading so bad that he's still waiting on that movie. And that is never,
that's a good book.
That is never going to be, no, it's never going to be a movie. That's the funny thing. That's the funny thing.
You have to speak that into his existence. It is going to be a movie.
I'm going to reenact it for him.
I'll do it. Call me. I'll sneak out the window. It's fine. I got it. I remember that book.
We're reliving my teenage years. Yeah. Man, I had to come clean with some stuff when my mom read it. She was like, hey, did you? Yes, I did that.
I've read a lot of books. Like, my husband makes fun of me all the time because he'll be like, when I get in a book and I start reading it, I can't hear you. Like, I'm like, my husband will be like, hello,
those people are real.
To you. Yes. I will put the book down. I'm like, how is this not a movie? And I'll just start crying.
Oh, I remember. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one of our favorite movie adventures that we've been on. I remember reading Twilight.
Oh, yes.
And by New Moon, I remember I was getting ready for church that day, and I was just forlorn because they had just broken up. And it was just stunning because if anybody who has not read these books, this is just so you know what happens.
Alert.
Spoiler alert, and it's how it was written. They break up, I guess, I don't know what month it was, and I don't even care, but it spent the next 3 months. All it said is in place of chapters were the months.
Yes, it was like October.
And it made me feel so empty inside. Yes. I mean, it made me feel what she was feeling. And I remember after church, I was sitting there folding clothes, and my now ex-husband was like, hey, is everything okay? No, Edward broke up with us, and I don't even know if I can make it for the day.
Yes. I was reading a book not that long ago, and I literally had to close the book. I was on page like 85, and I closed the book, and I looked at my husband, and I was like, I know this isn't real. And I mean, I was real tear crying about this man dying, and I was like, I don't even know him. And he was just like, shakes his head like, such disappointment. Like, I can't believe you. I'm like, I just can't. Such a baby.
Yeah, I know. And of course, by the end of Twilight, I was so disappointed that there wasn't any like serious death or turmoil. Yeah. And I remember going to the movies and you were there.
Oh.
And like the first time.
There was turmoil there.
Yes. Carlisle loses his head and it's like that happened not at all in the book. And I mean, that theater came unglued and I was kind of laughing and kind of screaming.
We came unglued.
It was like, what is going on? Yes. Every time I watch that, I think of all of us losing it.
Just like I feel like I was running up and down the aisles acting crazy.
And what I imagine the rest of the theater looked like is probably not what it looked like, but it looked like just popcorn flying everywhere and people swinging on the rafters. And like, it was like,
in my head, that's what I imagined too. But everybody else was probably like, what are these weirdos over here?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so without giving too much away, let's talk about a very important book, which is Eve and Dawn. And I want you to tell me, without giving anything away, no spoilers, tell me a little bit about the book.
Okay. Eve and Dawn are sisters, 10 and 8 years old. They live with their dad and his girlfriend. And the book starts with summer vacation starting. They get off the bus and summer vacation, and the girls have big plans for the summer. They live in the country beside a creek, and they spend all their free time, as we did, back in the 80s and 90s, outside in the creek and playing. So they have big adventures, and then they get bad news. So they have to move, and it's when they find new adventures. So they meet the Village Park kids.
I did not hear about the bad news in this. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. So I'm already disappointed. I'm like, oh, no.
I know.
We got to fix that.
I love the
I don't even know what the bad news is.
But they get new adventures, and they have to deal with choices they make, and it's kind of... you have to give lessons to kids. So
it's almost like a coming of age, but for younger, I guess.
They learn, who they are and who they should be proud of who they are and where they live and, where they're from. So it's just kind of teaching kids. It's much simpler than that in kids' terms, but that's kind of the point of it. As an adult, you're like, oh, okay, you should be proud of who you are, no matter where you come from.
But how long does it take you to feel that way in life?
Exactly.
It takes you to being an adult, and even there's days I wake up at like the age of 47 where I'm like, I'm just not proud of who I am.
Yeah, and you feel like you have imposter syndrome.
Yes, I have to explain to people I'm a one-car family because we're saving up money for a vehicle, so I don't have to pay major monthly payments.
Yeah.
And that embarrasses me, but at the same time, I'm like, but you know what? I really don't want to pay major monthly payments.
Yeah,
I'm just being smart.
It's so smart. That's how we do with all of our home renovations. So.
It's like we try to plan, but it's that's the imposter syndrome. That's everything.
It's real as an adult. Like that, I've had that with this book. Even people have asked me about it, and I didn't want to talk about it at first. And I was just like, I didn't feel like I belonged, and then I got my book and I got to hold it in my hands. And I actually had my kid and my husband, they recorded me opening it because I'd never had it. And I'm telling you, I sobbed. And I was like, I don't know why I'm crying. It's just so real.
It's your baby. It's literally like giving birth, but not having pain with it.
Yes.
But you do have pain.
It's only 75 pages, but I hope,
I didn't labor for 75 hours. I just had 75 pages to write.
Yes, but it's personal things that you write. And I mean, it's not a semi-personal, but it's just, putting your thoughts out there and letting people judge it is so hard.
Very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable.
Especially for somebody like me who has kind of always just been like, I'll just work back here, thanks. I've never been a spotlight person.
I know, but
except in my friend groups.
Absolutely. It's like, I was like, yeah. In your friend groups, yes, absolutely. But it's so good when people, they take into that step of vulnerability to share something within themselves. It's, I say it a million times in my lifetime, transparency is a superpower. And it takes a level of bravery to do that. And it may not seem like it's important to everybody in the world, but when you come out and say, hey, this is a story I had to tell, and I wanted it to convey this. You have no idea who it's reaching and whose life it's changing, even internally. Yeah. And it's so important that we do step into that.
Yeah. I have, I grew up in a huge family, that. I have 4 sisters and a brother. I'm the youngest of 5 girls, and my brother's younger than all of us. So there's only 2 sisters in this story, but I took pieces of each of my siblings and each of my sisters and put them into these 2 sisters. So everybody keeps asking me, like, are you Eve or Dawn? And I'm like, I'm a little bit of both, because Eve is like the bookworm and and then Dawn is the other one. So
the other one.
It's rowdy. And,
oh no.
Well, I'm sorry. Eve is the rowdy, 8-year-old that loves to climb trees and is always dirty and is a little chubby. And then that was me. But Dawn is the older one who loves to read and is a little bit more serious, and that's a little bit of me as well. So I took all of us into consideration. I put little, even the way they look isn't just me, or it isn't just my other sister. So I took a little bit, and then even the friends that they meet aren't specific friends from where my actual friends. I took pieces of each of my friends and put them into their personality. So I think that's super cool. What was the creative process like to... and people have asked me that with a lot of things, and I'm like, I don't know. I just sat down and I just started writing, I guess. Yeah. Well, funny story. When I started it during COVID, I actually had COVID. I got COVID. I work in healthcare. It was bound to happen. And so that was back when you had COVID and you had to quarantine for 147 days, it felt like.
Right.
But it was 12. So I had 10 days off work. And I was like...
You did not write that in 10 days,
absolutely
did you?
Not.
Oh, okay. I was like, holy moly.
But that's kind of where my rough draft started and your outline. You have to do all those things that you learn in school. And you're like, this is dumb and it's never going to apply to me. Well, if you want to write a book, it does.
Yeah.
Because you have to outline the book and how it's going to go and the climax of the story and the finish. And so I just wrote all of that. And then I started writing, and I sat on my back porch because it was October. So it was my favorite weather of the year. So I was just sitting on my back porch writing, and that's when I hashed it all out. And I started and then by the end of 2021, I was done.
Yeah.
And then I held on to it for a couple years. And I held on to it, and I was just,
because
it's expensive to publish a book. Yes. And because I didn't feel like I belonged. But also publishing a book is very expensive if you don't get picked up by a huge publishing company that gives you these huge, advances. I live in Crossville, guys. I work at,
and
healthcare.
It's not that it's not heard of or anything.
Yeah,
but here's the thing. I used to be ashamed of that as well, even self-publishing or if with a small publisher.
Yeah.
I'd worked with a small publisher, and it was the crappiest ordeal I'd ever had to go through. And then I was like, no, I'm going back to self-publishing.
And I remember those stories about you, and that was why I was really scared.
Yes.
So I actually went to an Author's Day event at our public library, which I'm a huge fan of our library.
Yes.
And I went to an Author's Day there, and they had all these people selling their books, and there was everything there. I highly recommend people go to that. I think it's usually in November.
Because I think she asked me, and I was like, I can't do it this year.
It's so good. And it's nothing but independent publishers, basically, and authors. So I went there, and I went to the children's area just to kind of see what the vibe is, because you're going to fit in if you're going to get in that area. So I went over there, and there was several people there that had the same publisher. Oh. And so I was kind of like, there was, I think, 2 or 3. And finally I was just like, I kept asking them, like, how do you publish? I asked everybody there, and several of them had said. And so I went to this publisher, and I reached out to, it's called Crippled Beagle Publishing out of Knoxville. And she's great. And she's been with me every step of the way. And and she's got helpers and, assistants that email me constantly. And so she emailed me, and we had like a 2-hour conversation. She paid, you pay for a consultation, which was nothing, and it's an hour-long conversation. We sat in there and talked for 2.5 hours on the phone, and she was super excited. And then I was like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then I was just like, I can't do this. I'm scared. So I held on to it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, for like a year. And then, situations happen. And I sat down with my husband of September of last year, and I was like, I really want to do this. So we dug in our savings, and we sat down, and I was like, can I have some savings? What do you think?
It is expensive. Here's the thing. I know, and I've seen people in message groups, I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. I know back in like 2008, 2009, when they call it vanity publishing or self-publishing, and people would get on about it. It's like, the reason they do that is because they're not good enough to be published. Well, let me tell you, in the music community, we have independent artists. They don't sign with a major label, and they are incredible artists. They write good music. They're super talented, and all it is that they're not going to make some label $1 million. They're not going to be pop radio. They're not, and it doesn't mean that they don't deserve some sort of audience. And the older I've gotten, which is not too far from 2009, 2008, but I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, it's no different with books.
It's not.
If you wait for somebody else to say, hey, I believe in you, you will never get it done.
do it. And so that's kind of, I published it, and I finally called her, and I was like, I'm ready. And she was like, okay. So January 1st of this year, I sent her I sent her my manuscript, and I feel like it's been 10 years, honestly. And everybody was like, because people close to me know I've wrote this book for a long time. So they keep saying, like, when is your book coming out? And I'm like, I don't know. But now I'm like, it's close. I can feel it. So I'm excited. I'm nervous because it's putting it out there, but I'm really blessed to work with it's close. So if I ever wanted anything from I could go to Knoxville.
Yes.
But it is expensive, but it's worth it, I think.
Yes. And everybody that I've seen even mention you or talk about your book, it is a massive supporting community. Like everyone's really excited about this.
I have really good friends. I've made sure they all, you keep people that are sunshine close to you. That's I try to do.
You do. Absolutely.
And I try to do that. I have good friends.
And you do.
So I try to keep them close. You got to have, if people aren't cheering for you in your corner, you're in the wrong corner. Get out of that corner.
You don't need them. You don't need them. Get
away. And I'm trying to teach my daughters that. So, and I keep saying that. I'm like, my oldest daughter and my younger one too, they keep telling me, I'll say like, I don't know, I'm really nervous. Like I was nervous about today. And they were like, why? It's Melissa. Lillian was like, you've known her. But it's more, I think it's just a personal journey. And you're so scared that people are going to be like, wow, she really did this. And it's not
uncharted.
That big a deal.
It's uncharted. You've never done it before. You're kind of tiptoeing through it. You just don't know.
But if you don't do it, you don't know.
Yeah.
I decided when I turned 40, like, 4 months ago. Not really.
I was like, did you just turn 40?
No, I'm 42.
Oh.
When I turned 40, I decided, I love my kids, and my kids are not raised by any means all the way, but you have to start living something, you're such a mom for so long.
You have to do something for yourself.
And I was just like, I cannot, die as an old lady and be like, man, I wish I would have wrote a book.
Yes.
I can't.
Oh my gosh.
Even if it never goes anywhere, I can be like, not many people can say that.
Do you know how many people tell me they're like, I've got so many stories and I just wish I'd write a book. And I'm like, write it.
Write it.
Even if you self-publish it or never publish it.
Even if you write it on a blog somewhere,
put it on a website.
Yeah. Hey, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing is,
yes,
you can do that
it's
yourself.
A lifesaver.
Yes.
Yes.
People do it all the time.
You have the world at your fingertips. The era that we're living
to read stories that you've told.
I remember Wattpad or whatever. People would get on there just to read like each other's little story or the freaking
and pay $5 to read the next chapter.
50 Shades, which
started out as fan
fiction.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine Bella and Edward being like that. It was a little,
but look at her now.
Yeah, she's bathing in like diamonds.
Yeah,
because she got that book published.
Because she took a chance.
Yes, she did.
And so, and there are some books you read and you're just like, oof, I don't know, this was the one that should have been published.
I've read those.
I feel like that one should have been a back burner. But and some people are going to think that about everything you do. People are going to read my book, or their kids going to read my book and be like, that wasn't it for me, because it's not going to be
not for everybody.
That's a hard lesson to learn in life. You're not everybody's cup of tea.
I play jazz. Do you think Crossville listens to my music? No,
yes.
not the dominance.
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
I tell people, I'm like, they don't listen to me because I don't do Skinnerd. So,
she also doesn't do November Rain.
I can do November Rain. Oh my gosh!
But you have to learn in life that you're not going to be everybody's first choice.
No,
you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. That's a hard lesson to learn because I like to be liked.
It's hard not to be liked. It really is, and I hate that.
It is.
Even as adults, we feel that.
Yeah.
So, I always thought I'd grow out of it, but I haven't.
I wrote my book in hopes that maybe some kid that's going through stuff when they're at their house and their life is hard can just go on these adventures with these sisters. You know? And their friends, because this is my first book and I will be writing more books.
Yes.
I'm hoping that this is like the Babysitter's Club type books where it's a standalone series.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can pick up a book and just go on these adventures with these sisters and then pick up book 6 and it's a different adventure, but you don't have to read book 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 just to follow through.
I like that.
So that's what I'm hoping it is. And none of them are going to be huge or, big. As you read like Harry Potter, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's just like,
and then Cedric
overwhelming.
dies,
and then you're just like, I can't read these books anymore. I would love, to grow up with these sisters, but I want to keep this as a kids series, and maybe down the road write these sisters as adults. Because people love to grow with stories.
Elizabeth and Jessica Wakefield.
Yeah.
They were middle school, 6th grade, and then all of a sudden they were in high school, and then they even had a Sweet Valley Kids.
Yes, they did. Mm-hmm. So, I want to keep these as like standalone series that you can just grab off your shelf and, essential in numbers of,
I like this. So,
I don't know how many
excited for you.
But every one of them are going to be different.
Did you have any unexpected hurdles during this publishing process, other than you just holding on to it saying, I'm not ready?
That was a big one. Not really. I kind of knew what my first one was going to be about. It's not true to story. My friends, some of them kind of treated me as, these kids get treated in here, but not really. But in that whole, like, I don't belong here, imposter syndrome was a real thing to me, and it always has been in my life. So I think that was... I kind of played that into the story. So I didn't really have any hurdles other than somebody taught me, and I can't remember who it was. I used to go to a local authors writers group here in Crossville, and they taught me to show, not tell when you're writing. And that was hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard because you have to be very descriptive. And then I kept thinking, like, what are they talking about? That was my biggest hurdle. Like, I'm really good at grammar and English, and I'm really good at those things. I always have been. Don't give me math, but I'm good at those things. But that was hard for me to learn that, the show, not tell. Because you assume people know what you're talking about.
I'm going to act it out for them.
Yes.
I'll write a movie script. How's that?
Yes. And so that was my biggest hurdle, I think, was showing.
Yeah.
In the world of small business, every day feels like a whirlwind. Owners are constantly balancing tasks, struggling to find time for what matters most. But in this busy season, relief arrives. Introducing the Autumn Agency's Small Business Division. Imagine a team that not only designs websites and masters SEO, but also provides essential business tools and strategies. With the Autumn Agency, owners gain access to expert business consultants who offer personalized strategies and tools to optimize operations. From marketing plans to financial insights, our consultants empower you to make informed decisions that drive growth. Digital marketing, social media, branding, e-commerce, every aspect of your business is perfected. Visit us today at theautumnagency.co and let us be your autumn. That's what it was. I never felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
There was always something that made me feel different and everything.
Yeah.
And something that's really interesting, that whole transparency thing and the imposter syndrome and everything, when you come forward and say, hey, I've always felt like I didn't belong, or I always felt like this, it is amazing how many other people felt the same way. And you realize we're in a really big world of everyone who feels alone.
Yeah.
Why don't we start our own club? Like, I remember years and years ago, I made a comment about I felt like such a nerd in high school. I mean, I played music. I was in drama. We're typically nerds. And one of my friends, and I don't want to mention her name, but she and her sister decided to come forward and say that they felt like nerds too. These girls were not nerds in my mind. They were like the most popular girls in school.
Yeah.
They were cheerleaders. They went on to cheer in college. They were, beauty pageant winners, but they said they felt like nerds. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you realize.
And in high school, you would have given anything for them to, be
would you have
friends with
said that to me in high school so we could have at least felt like we were on the same playing field and everything? So it's just amazing when we come forward and we're like, hey, I'm a nerd, or I don't feel like I'm good enough, or I don't feel like I fit in. I still don't feel like I fit in.
And, what's funny is because I grew up in Cookville, which is way bigger. I always say it's too big for its britches now because I grew up there. I could say that. I grew up there, and then we moved to Baxter, but I didn't move to Crossville until I was an adult. I was 18, 19. And I've lived here since then. I mean, I'm 42, and I still feel that way in this town because it's hard everybody grew up here, I feel like. And I feel like if you didn't grow up here, you're kind of missed out on your friend clique. So that's hard.
You do. And I know that this won't make sense to a lot of people. I've never had a friend clique here.
Yeah, me neither.
But I moved here when I was 12. I mean, years before you would have. I mean, at your age. And I still never fit in. My sisters moved in probably right around, I want to say 3rd and 2nd grade. They have a clique. They had a group of friends that I grew up with. But I always felt like and of course that could be my ADHD, but I just kind of floated aimlessly. I have friends, but not the kind that I'm like, hey, let's have a girls' night. Let's do breakfast. Let's do this,
I join in on other people's friends groups. And then you feel like, do they want me here?
I don't think they even want me. I'm going to go home.
They just invited me out of pity.
They feel sorry for me.
But that was part of the reason why it was hard for me to put this book out here, because I don't, I feel like Crossville, everybody knows everybody. And there is a lot of people that I know a lot of people in this town. For my kids going to school here. My husband owns a business here.
Absolutely.
So I feel like, I do know a lot of people, but you feel like you're like, just because they know me doesn't mean they like me. Everybody feels that. You have such anxiety as a woman. Nobody talks about that.
I know. And, I've said, if I talk about, how, my hometown is Crossville, there are still some people that will remind me that I'm not born and bred here. And I'm like, holy crap, I moved here when I was 12. How do you even remember that?
I feel like if I've had children here, I belong. Leave me alone.
I've had 3 out of 4 of my kids here. The other one was born in Cookville. Not much different.
Really not.
I'm from the Upper Cumberland at this point, everybody.
Yeah. So that was part of my hurdle too, because I felt like I didn't have enough support to release a book. And then you put it out there, and I finally made a Facebook page and said, hey, and then you see like, oh, these are my friends.
Yes.
These are the people that are going to support me in this little baby blip journey of mine.
And it's exciting. But you work like a real person's job. I love to call them. People tell me, why don't you get a real job? Why? I get one life to live. Why would I waste it on a real job? I'd rather be poor and not work a real job. But you work a 9-to-5 office job.
Yeah. How
did you balance writing that book and working your job and being a mom of 2 girls?
I just neglected them. It's fine.
One goes to school at MTSU, and that's why she left, because you didn't love her.
She was like, I'm leaving. I can't with her. No, I have girls, and not to say that boys don't, but girls are pretty self-sufficient. once they get to a certain age, they're like,
boys are needy.
yeah,
Boys
girls are needy when they're older and babies. But I mean, when they're like 10, 11, 12, they don't, they're like self-sufficient. As long as I feed them, they don't need me. So my free time, instead of scrolling through social media or whatever, working out like I probably should have been doing, I wrote. So,
you have to give up something.
Yeah, so
you have to give up something to make other dreams happen.
I gave up crafting for a while. That's
you love
heart.
crafting.
I know. I did.
I know I'm being funny, but you really do love crafting.
I do love it so much. And my craft room is now craft room / author's office. So, and my books take over. So I did. I took away from my crafting time, which was hard for me. Not that I make money off of it, but that was what you loved doing. Outlet of, that's how I just focused on other things. So I took away from my crafting and my social media.
Yeah. Getting rid of the social media it's a difficult thing,
life.
But holy moly,
it is hard.
It is key to life. Like, I work with social media a lot, and it is a necessary evil. I mean, as you're going to find out with like putting out this book thing, you got to promote yourself, and social media is a big promoter. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
Because not only is it exhausting to keep those wheels turning and learn new ways to promote yourself and make it efficient, but then you get to see everybody else's, inside voices being put out there on social media, whether it's about you or not. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of an election. I know how exhausting it is.
Yeah,
I don't like to doom scroll anymore.
No, I don't either. I do not doom scroll. I can't. So I finally made my Facebook page for my author, because that was my last, I got to let people know I'm writing a book.
And it's under the name Miranda Dean, so you guys got to check it out on Facebook. So are you going to have a website or anything?
I am going to. I haven't got that far in my journey yet. Right. I hope to have a website. Obviously, I need one if I'm going to do more books and get bigger. So I have to. I'm just baby stepping it. I'm like, let's get this book out there first. It should, I just finished the final edits of it and sent it in. And so hopefully.
And you call this your galley book?
Yes.
Okay.
My galley copy.
Your galley copy. See, I always call them ARC.
Same thing.
Advanced. Yeah, I know. I was like, when you said galley, I was like, what is she talking about? Oh, it must be the ARCs.
Yeah, it's a galley copy. So
that's cool.
I actually have a paperback version too. And it actually has the, do not copy. Yes. I think of that too. But this one is like just so you can see it a little bit.
So have you had anybody read it and give you any feedback?
I have.
Oh, I want to hear their feedback.
Children. This past weekend, I took it.
Well, I mean, it makes sense you'd give it to children. I was going to see if any adults have
Well, I read, one of them is a 14-year-old, and she's very smart, but she's a reader.
Yes.
So I gave it to her, and she really enjoyed it. And she was like, I'm so glad you wrapped it up at the end. I was scared, blah, 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 of this, and I was scared of this, and I was scared of this. And then I let an 8-year-old read it, but 9, sorry. Because she read the first chapter, she had to go to her grandma's house. She read it, and she really enjoyed it. She's like, I'm so excited to see where this goes. She said, I really like what you've got here.
I really like what you've got here.
She was so serious. I love her. Yeah, she's like, I really like what you've got here. I'm sure you're
wondering why I called you into this meeting.
That's exactly what I felt like. She did say, this word, one of the words in there, she said, this word doesn't sit right with me.
Oh. I keep imagining that. I'm sorry. I
feel like she should have a pencil
the midget
in her
guy.
ear
I feel like I'm thinking about that midget guy in Elf. She's call me an angry elf one more time.
Yes,
my friend.
She was serious, but she's a reader as well. Yeah. So I have got a couple of kids. Yeah, you want
that's
kids
your market.
Yes, and so I'm waiting to get a couple more copies so that I can give them to my friends' children that are smaller. To read. So
I'm curious. Have you looked into how you may be able to make that an AR?
I haven't yet.
That would be good.
Miss the library, Miss Thurman, actually was one of the first ones that read it.
Really?
Yes, she is.
What did she say?
I love her so much. She actually read it before anybody. Mm-hmm. I gave it to her and was like, Miss Thurman, you've done this, your whole career. Tell me what you think. And she edited it with her red pencil with the teacher, because I love that. And she actually helped me a lot with the editing and doing this. And so I actually have, one of the librarians in this book is named. I didn't want to copy her name because that's rude.
Right.
She probably wouldn't have cared.
She probably wouldn't.
She would have probably been honored, honestly.
As long as she wasn't a mean teacher.
She wasn't. She's the librarian.
She's a librarian. Everybody loves the librarian.
Her name is very similar to Miss Thurman, but she helped me out. And I haven't, because she's retired now. But I'm sure she could help me get in that direction because I would love that.
Yeah.
You know, for it to be in schools, and our local M&B Books is going to have it in theirs.
Yes, and that is through Darcy Roach, correct? Yes.
So she's been a big influence on me as well.
I've seen that. That's what was like the first catch was like, oh, Darcy's excited about a book. What is this? Oh my gosh, it's Miranda.
So I'm hoping to get into her store as well.
Absolutely. And I know that she was getting that all set up this summer for a big opening. So, and I tried to get her on the show, but she was like, I'm really busy setting up my store. I know. I feel like
if you haven't been to her bookstore, I highly recommend it.
I drive by it a lot when I go to Chattanooga because I take that Old Mill Road. But
I love it.
And the first time I saw it, I was like, why is she all the way out here? But then I've had other people on the show that, you know, talk about what is the Dogwood Exchange.
Yes.
And it's all the way out in the middle of Homestead.
Yes.
They're like, you know what? People out here want to have some of the same amenities that we do downtown.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, you know what? That makes sense. Like here, you got Darcy in the middle of nowhere, what I would say. But you know how many people travel
anywhere.
Anywhere.
And people that love books are going to
show up.
We're going to
build it. They will come.
Yes. And I mean, I love her bookstore. So I'm excited. I mean, there's another bookstore in town too. So I'm hoping that both of them will carry it.
I'm trying to think of
the novel idea.
Where is that at?
It's right here beside you. It's on Stanley. I don't know my roads. I know I've lived here my whole life, basically. Stanley.
Tell me, Lewis and Clark, where are we at?
Go south. I'm lost.
Lost already.
You can see my hand motion. It's right on Stanley.
Okay.
There's like a Selby's Auto Sales or something right beside it.
A novel idea.
Yeah, it's a little tiny bookstore. It's used books, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
I love used books.
Yeah, me too.
Have you reached out to the bookseller either?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
You just have a lot of options.
I know I do.
And then you have like other areas in the Upper Cumberland. So what does this look like? What you don't know when you're releasing this, and you said earlier to me, I think probably before we started the show, early in October.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm shooting for October 1. That's my,
1.
because I've already sent in everything. I've did my final edits. This is like, you can't edit anything else. Time's up.
Yep, this is it.
This is it. So,
so you can do a book tour, or are you going to look at?
I'm going to do a small one. I mean, I have to work full time, obviously.
What?
I do have fall
Everyone
break
buy her
coming
book
up.
so she can do this full time.
I know, right? Buy my book so I don't have to do this. I do love my job though.
No.
I have a great job. So I would love to go to the library and have like, do the children's story time and go to Putnam County Library and do those. And then I'm trying to get my book out and set up at the Southern Festival of Books.
Yes,
which
I know
is
what
one
that
of
is.
my favorite places. Yes, in Nashville. So,
and who knows, you might be at this authors event next time in November to give your advice.
So,
don't be an imposter.
Yes. So
Imposter
I'm hoping that's going to be any of these little book conventions. I'm trying to set up at all of them just to get your name out there and get people aware of you.
And there's a lot of cute little bookstores I know in Cookville. The reason I know about that, I work out of Cookville a lot. But there's one in Sparta. I don't know if it's still there. There's just so many. And I know that reaching out to all of these.
It's exhausting.
I'm
actually going to be talking to a local homeschool group too about a co-op and their co-op group and how to, what my journey was. And super excited. A friend of mine invited me to talk to her co-op group. So just baby steps right now. And then I'll do my world tour one day.
Yes, someday. And I'm going to have Taylor Swift open for me with just a little song.
Just a little jig. She just,
What is the age group that you basically feel like this should be marketed to?
Yeah, like probably 7 to 10.
Okay.
I would say. Yeah, I think when kids get 11, they start reading bigger chapter books.
Not my kids. Of course, I have boys, and they're like, nope.
I think it's an easy reader. If you think like the Junie B. Jones, things like that, that's kind of the style it is and the age group. So, first, second, third
if I can
grade.
get my kid to not read Five Nights at Freddy's, maybe I can get him to
I asked one of the guy who illustrated the book for me.
That's what my next question was going to be.
His name is Stan. I got him through my publisher.
Okay.
I tried to get my daughter to, but she's in college. She didn't have time.
Is she an art major? She is an art major.
Yes.
I was like, if I remember correctly,
she would have done amazing at it as well. But he worked with me to do these, and that's what he had asked if I wanted to do the comic book style. And I was like, no. I love those books for what
novels.
they are, but it is not my style.
No.
I've just never got into those as kids.
My boys do.
My kids do.
And
Even
I'm
the
like,
Dork Diaries, things like that.
Oh,
Diary of a
yes.
Wimpy Kid.
Diary of a Wimpy
Those are
Kid.
big. And I mean, they're great. They've made bajillions of dollars. But
My 18-year-old did the Twilight series and listened to it on audio.
oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I've just not got into audiobooks. This isn't an audiobook.
Are you
but
going to do an audiobook?
I would do it. Absolutely.
I can't do audio. I can't listen to audio because I'll listen to it for about 30 minutes and I'm like, oh, wait. I was listening to something and where am I at?
I do it, which is terrible because I do it when I drive. I drive a lot for my job. And then I'm like, did I just go through that red light?
That's what, or, whoa, I don't remember leaving Cookville and getting here so quickly. And that's how I am with my audiobooks. So yeah, I don't
I've
do
done
them.
that. But I can listen to an audiobook and have another book going at the same time. So that's why I pretty much do it. So I don't have an audiobook of this, but I would. I mean, it's going to be hardback, paperback, and on Kindle Direct Publishing.
Oh,
so yeah, you'll be able to get it on ebook.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
even more exciting.
Yes.
And so Stan, who illustrated this, is he from like Knoxville too, or was he like just a freelancer? That
I think he's a freelance. Yeah,
Okay,
he's a
cool.
freelance. I never actually have physically met him, but he communicated through my publisher. So.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
And just are there pictures on every page? I'm a picture person.
Yeah, there is one chapter. Each chapter has one picture. Yeah, so they're just black and white, sketchy looking pictures. So,
But they're better than I would have had like stick.
Oh.
Mine would look like, Diary of a Wimpy Kid and not
mine
even
would
that
have
good.
been worse. So, like, she sends me, my publisher's like, draw out what you want the cover to look like. And I was like, no, girl, we're not. That's not what you want.
Is that the two sisters and their dad?
That is not their dad. That's Mr. Williams.
Oh, Mr. Williams.
The only man's name, the only person's name I didn't change. He was one of we adopted him as our grandpa. We called him Poppy when we were kids.
Well, I thought it was
I
like
had
a
to put him
grandpa,
in
but I thought it was your dad.
Yeah,
And that.
my dad's way taller than that.
You
And this
did
is
have a
like
really tall dad.
That's the first picture. So it's it's kind of sketched, and
I
can just see
it's real
that-
sketch, and I was like,
I can see
she
that
means
kids are
sketch,
going to
like
get these
art.
books and color these in as coloring pages because I want to do that. I'm like, I want
Hey,
a coloring
you should encourage
page.
that. Like, and
Yeah,
for
make a
every purchase of a
coloring
book, we have a tiny little
Coloring
crayons that we stole from
could,
Logan's.
Texas Roadhouse. They get 3 colors. Yeah.
Just use them
But they're
wisely.
terrible crayons.
I
Waxy
know they're
crayons.
not. They're not
Yeah.
very good. Go get the Crayola, everybody. Quit doing rose art. It's not fair to the children.
crazy art.
Or crazy art. Oh, wow.
But he was very hands-on. Like, I told them exactly, what colors I wanted the bikes, what colors I wanted their hair. And,
Really?
Oh, yeah. And then he's probably, if he ever hears this, he was very picky. Because I would be like, that's the wrong shade of brown.
Oh.
I mean, if this is my baby, though.
No. I get that.
I was like, that
This
looks
was-
more like this. You
This
should
was
turn
a
the hand this
long
way.
time coming.
Yeah.
So, you want to do it right when
I
you
would be
do it.
shocked if this illustrator, the next book wouldn't be like,
No, I'm not working with that.
busy. I'm busy.
I'm busy. You're like, I'm going to go big or go home with this book.
Yes.
And that is not
If
the
I'm
right shade
paying
of
for
brown.
this, you're doing exactly like I want. So I just, and you never know if you don't get to do this again. So I was like, if, you do it
Absolutely.
once, you're going to do it right. So I'm excited. The cover that was hard.
Now, I know that I don't have this on my questionnaire for you, but now I'm going to start ambushing you with questions to freak you out. Honestly, no joke. What is, as an adult, or even as a child, it could be either way. What is your favorite book of all time?
Sounds like so basic. For now, like where I'm at right now in life, I love Kristen Hanna, and I know she's a huge author right now. But
Yeah.
The Nightingale is the most beautiful book I've ever read. But also her book, The Great Alone, is just equally as good. So if you haven't read it, I recommend it. I love those books. So, but obviously, my favorite series is Harry Potter. Because who
What?
doesn't?
No,
Only
no.
because I read them with my kids too.
I did too.
So
And I read them after they were already popular. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't read them when they
I
were
remember
gaining
when you were reading them.
I read
Yeah.
them, and I had Matt reading them, and
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't want to get into Harry Potter because everybody else was
Yes,
into
you're
it.
one of those.
I'm one of those people. And then I read it, and I was like, oh, I missed out on all the fun when it
Addie's
came
like
out.
that.
Oh,
Yes. Why wasn't I a part of this?
I should have been a part of that. I love
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
I think there's different books for different seasons of your life.
there are.
So this season that I'm in is Kristen Hanna because I'm a 40-something-year-old mom.
Mm-hmm.
So as a kid, I don't think I had a favorite book as a kid. I loved Judy Blume. There was a book called Just Between Us, or Just Between, I don't know, something like that. I can't remember what it is now. She was great. So I read anything.
I think we all loved Judy Blume.
Yeah.
I mean, we came up in Gen X.
If you didn't.
She was our woman. She was our author.
Yeah, she was
author of the people.
Yeah.
Or the Gen Xers anyway.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure I see books. I've read so many books that I will buy the book and then get home and be like, I already own it. I do that a lot.
I did that with Twilight.
Or I'll pick up the book and I'll be like, this sounds so good. And then I'll start reading it and I'm like, I've already read this. My husband gets so mad. He's like, you read way too much. And I'm like,
I've done that with movies though, and I'm a movie fanatic. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. I think I've seen this.
I've never done it with
movies. I knew what was going to happen next. I'm like, I think I've seen this before. And even though it felt familiar and I knew it was happening, I still couldn't convince myself that I'd seen this before.
You're like, I just imagined it.
No, like one of my favorite books that I love to read, even to this day, and it's not in my season right now. For those, like I said, I went to grad school in 2020. And when I finally finished, I swore off books. I don't read anymore. I'm done right now. I'm no longer reading. I don't read anymore.
My sister's getting her master's. Every time I'm like, read this book, she's like, I'm busy.
I'm like, I'm not going to read that. I've had people say, hey, you need to read this. No, I don't read anymore.
I'm done with that.
I'm done right now. May happen again. But Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea.
I don't remember reading those.
Those were like that and Little Women. I love Little Women.
You can't go wrong with that. I'm actually right now I'm trying to incorporate, I know I'm going to shock people. There's a lot of classics I haven't read. I just was never that kind of reader.
Yeah.
I wasn't like a Jane Austen.
Well, I was more into Stephen King. If there weren't dead people, I didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah,
really.
I didn't read, I read Little Women, obviously, when I was little, but I've never even read To Kill a Mockingbird.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
but that's stuff that I picked up as a young adult because I realized then it's I kind of want to get a different,
I own it now. Those kind of books. I want to get into those. So that's my mission, is to start reading at least one of those a month just to get them, because everybody says you need to.
Yeah.
Who am I one to buck the system?
You can't buck the system. It's like not watching Harry Potter or reading Harry Potter when he comes out.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Who does that? Who missed that boat? So,
my goodness.
That's my goal right now, is to reread the classics.
Yeah,
or read them for the first time.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a really good idea.
But I mean, growing up, I grew up in Cookeville. To Kill a Mockingbird was a banned book. In our school. We weren't allowed to read it.
I have no idea what was banned. I read it anyway.
I
probably.
don't either. I've never read it, so I'm sure there's something.
I loved Gone with the Wind, and I'm sure that's probably banned for pretty good reasons. But I can't ever say anything's a good reason to ban a book.
Yeah, me neither.
I love books, and when they're banned, there's usually
I'm one of those
something involved.
infuriating things about banning books. I'm always, stop banning books.
We're going to ban books. Are we not going to ban music or ban movies?
Yeah.
I just feel like, and of course, we have this thing every year at my house at the end of the school year. We call it a purge party. And of course, saying that this day and age, everyone imagines purge with the masks, and we're going to beat people to death. But we call it a purge party because everyone saves up their homework and their school projects. We have a huge bonfire and we burn it all. We're purging the school year.
There you go. I mean, that's cool.
Welcoming the summer and the next year, we call it a purge party. When we have invited people and say, hey, we're having a purge party, bring your kids, have your kids bring this, and we're going to burn stuff and they're going to sleep over and everything. And the parents are like, with a bonfire? And I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you right now what it's like. It's like Lord of the Flies meets Fahrenheit 451. It really is.
Just a bunch of boys.
It's really wild. But I mean, and some of them are like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, oh, wow. I guess I don't know how to explain it. It's just wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I mean, that's a good idea, though.
It is. Oh, I love it.
It just cleans you out for the summer.
It
just
does.
Fresh.
Yes, it is. It's really
cute.
fresh. I wish I could do that, but I don't have an end of the year. It just keeps going.
I know.
That's adulting.
I'm going to do that at the end of the year. Whatever month I decide is the end of my year.
This is the end of my year. Mine would be February 12th, my birthday.
My own fiscal year.
February 11, I'm burning everything.
It's my own fiscal year. I'm doing it.
Oh my gosh. Everybody, this is Miranda Dean. She has a new book, Eve and Dawn. It is hopefully coming out October 1st. That's what she feels in her bones. It's going to happen. But if it's not, follow her on Facebook. She doesn't have a website yet, but I'm sure it's going to be required eventually.
It will be.
But follow her on Facebook, and she will be at MNB Books.
Yes.
That's Mind and Body, yes.
Yes. M&B.
M&B.
Yes.
M&B Books, which is a Darcy Roach bookstore. I say that like I don't know if anybody.
And I will be letting everybody know officially, like when I get the word. Don't worry, I'll let you know on Facebook when it's coming out, and any events that I plan on attending, so everybody can come say hi.
Yeah, and if you see that on Facebook, just a reminder: even if you don't particularly want to read the book, please share it.
Yes.
That is the way that we help small businesses. And being an author is absolutely a small business because she still has to work a real job to keep doing it.
A big girl job. I have a big girl job.
Grown-up jobs, man. But Miranda, thank you so much for coming on the show. It wasn't that scary, was it? I opened it up earlier and I'm not going to post it, but it was me. Hey, what'd you think of the debate last night? We break in real softly.
And then you just cut
and I was like, hey, how's it going?
No,
anyway,
thank you. I appreciate it.
I loved having you on the show, and I hope everyone reads Eve and Dawn and have just a wonderful week. And I hope to see more books come from you.
Yes, thank you.
Coming down, it's right off Interstate 40. It's my beloved hometown, Crossville, Tennessee. And when I leave, I feel so sad, not just because of mom and dad. It's for my love of hometown, Crossville, Tennessee.
Looking for the perfect gift for someone you love? Perhaps you're in search of something unique to treat yourself. Discover the beauty of uniquely created hand-stamped jewelry. Locally owned and crafted with love, our collection features rings, bracelets, keychains, and pendants made from durable aluminum and paired with natural beads. Enjoy necklaces on sterling silver-plated chains and earrings with sterling silver hooks for a touch of elegance. Each piece is hand-stamped and one of a kind, making it uniquely yours. Plus, we offer custom orders, and we ship nationwide. Find us on Facebook and Instagram today and fall in love with your perfect piece, uniquely created just for you. Uniquely created hand-stamped jewelry in Crossville. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of What's Up Crossville. We want to give a shout out to the amazing sponsors for their support. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend. For more information about What's Up Crossville, visit us at whatsupcrossville.com. There, you can find upcoming episodes, resources mentioned in the episode, and even recommend future guests. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the individual speakers and do not represent the policy or positions of this show, its related entities, advertisers, or the Southern Spitfire brand. While our discussions may cover a variety of topics, the content of What's Up Crossville is intended to inform, inspire, and entertain. It should not be used as a substitute for professional advice. For medical, financial, legal, or other professional advice, we encourage our listeners to seek the expertise of a licensed professional who can provide personalized guidance. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode of What's Up Crossville.